Hello. So if you saw my last, don't worry about this one. It's basically me repeating the same thing. I've got it in my head. I can do it better. So we're going to give it a go. And what that last thing was me being nosy. I've wondered for a while, because I'm a nosy bastard, if it's worthwhile for members of the Yogscast, a network of people who play video games on the internet, to join in episodes of TTT, which is a game that they play together. On this big channel, which has 7.18 million subscribers and gets hundreds of thousands of views. It seems like it's a no-brainer. Of course, you should join in on that, but should you? And I've wondered this, and I thought I'd investigate it because I found out that TTT is on IMDb, which is wonderful. It gives me a list of how many episodes everyone has been in. So I grabbed that, and then I checked that the people I was grabbing were actually still in the Yogscast, just in case that changed anything, by comparing it to this doodah on the Yogscast subreddit. I'm not actually sure how reliable those two measures are, but there we go. And then I grabbed everyone's Twitch followers based on what was on their social blade. Again, I don't know how that works, but it's figures. I grabbed them, I plopped them in a table, which I imported into R and R Studio. And as you can see, we've got people, who they are, how many episodes they've been in, YouTube subscribers. Don't worry about that. I was going to do some fancy metric that combined YouTube and Twitch followers, but that's kind of difficult. How do you value a YouTube sub to a Twitch follower? I don't have the information to work that one out. And Twitch followers. So we have a quick look. We'll see some potentially problematic things in here. For example, Hat Films. That's 3 people. So what I did there was I added all the episodes together, and then they've got the one channel with the one followers total. Is that a fair comparison? Maybe. It's probably the most fair comparison I can think of doing. Unless you want to decide that having multiple people in the same episode means it's half an episode or something like that. But I stuck with just give them one person with all the episodes for this. And also there isn't a time element. That's the other thing that I think is particularly important. This is at the moment, or a few days ago when I collected all this figures. It doesn't take any account to whether they've done these recently. They did these when they actually had the Twitch channel, or they've done a lot before they had a Twitch channel. It doesn't take anything like that into account. So flawed, but the data that is available and relatively easy for me to get my hands on. So it's what we're going to go with. I brought that into R, and now I'm going to do a nice little regression model on it. So I'm going to bring this up, which is a nice negative slope. For the more TTT episodes you're in, the less Twitch followers you'll have. More specifically, you start out life, very well done for this, with 71,086 Twitch followers. And then for every episode of TTT you appear in, you lose 59 Twitch followers. Random thing to segue back in, I didn't include anyone with only one episode. So, what are we to make of this? Well, it's hard to believe that a successful group of people who've made their career and livelihoods based on this wouldn't have noticed if participating in something was killing that career off. So, if we look at this, there appears to be multiple populations, multiple groups that fit together better than they do with the overall everyone. So we've got these people here who might be the workhorses who've kept TTT going, but perhaps maybe at the cost of their own personal channel's success, or maybe that just wasn't a priority for them as much as participating in the main channel's stuff. We've got show-offs, I'll call these, who for some reason are a cut above in terms of Twitch followers than everyone else, outside of the range that we'd expect them to be in. And then we've got sips, just showing off even more so than the show-offs. So let's be a bit more certain about this. Let's do some density plots. So what a density plot is essentially it's showing us a peak where people actually are on this line of Twitch followers. So the more Twitch followers you have, the further along the line you'll be. We've got SIPs here on the end. We've got the shafts. That's Pyrian Flax, Hat Films, and Pedguin. And then we've got everyone else. I think it's fair to say that SIPs is an outlier. We should just get rid of him. The show-offs, well, there is something about Hat Films. That's 3 people. Pyrian Flax, that's someone who's got a following from esports. So perhaps that has pushed them along. Pedguin, I'm afraid I'm not someone who's followed Pedguin, so I don't really know much about him. I'm sure some charisma, I don't know, maybe there's something there that's moved him along. But you could say, actually, this is 10% of our data set, and there's nothing there that's not repeatable, right? Someone else from esports or another large thing could come over, or someone else with a large group of people could come in and join the network, presumably. So you could say we keep that. You could say we get rid of it. I think that's just a judgment call. I got rid of it. It didn't really change much because I did it both ways as well. And then if we look at the same thing, but for the amount of episodes people have been in, we can see there's a large population, and then that workhorse population with a slight bulge here. So there, I think if we get rid of everyone from the last graph who has more than 100,000, that gets rid of the shafts, and the shafts show off in SIPs. And then we also get rid of everyone who's from this graph got more than 250 episodes. Just as a bit of an aside to anyone who's really into statistics, this is the first data set that we're looking at now that is just about counting as normal. If you know what that means, cool. If you don't worry about it. And yeah, let's run that new regression on our smaller data set that gets rid of everyone with over 100,000 followers and over 250 episodes, which is, if you're maybe considering an offer from the Yogscast, I don't know how that stuff works, but maybe you want to think about whether this is worth your time. And to be fair, this isn't a very good way of working that out, but this is the way I've got. This is what I'm doing. So it's now uphill. That's the big win. The more episodes of TTT you're in, the more Twitch followers you'll have, which, if that is your metric of success, you definitely should be in. Obviously, it's not the only metric. Maybe you just want to have fun with your friends, in which case, who cares? Who cares? Just have fun. But yeah, so you start now with 19,421 followers, and you gain 183 per episode you appear in, which is reasonable. But I would like to point us at another statistic, which is our adjusted and multiple R-squares. These are essentially a way of looking at how much of the variation between the points we have and the mean we can explain with our model. How much better we are at explaining what's going on than if we just were to say everyone has the same average. So if I was to try and predict using my model how much this person has, I would look here and I'd find it's up here and I'd say 35,000. Whereas actually they have whatever the mean is, about 30,000. So I've actually done a pretty bad job there. But up here with this person, I'm actually a lot closer. They're a lot closer to my blue line. I didn't say the dashed line is the mean. So for our model as a whole, we're about 30 to 26% better than just guessing the mean, which, if you think about it, if you turned on the weather forecast and they were about, less than a third better than just looking at the average climate chart, would you bother to watch the weather? Probably not. So I don't think this is a great way of looking at it. But it does get also more interesting if you reduce the amount of people. So we've got less people now because we've cut the episodes down to a maximum of 25. And you start here in this group with 2,327 Twitch followers, and you gain 1,910. And also, it's more doing better on the adjusted and multiple R squared. Be honest, probably because there's just less people. So there's less mistakes you can make with your trying to work out the average, because they're close together, because there's less. And I've really lost my train of thought here. This is why I should do scripts. But yeah, so we've seen that actually this is a steeper slope. Instead of gaining, I've actually forgotten what it was, 183, you're now gaining almost 2,000, 10 times the amount if you're in a smaller part of it, which suggests diminishing marginal returns to scale. Now, the easiest way to find out that is to shove it into a need to upgrade this back up to its full size, otherwise it looks a bit like that, which is basically I don't know what's going on. But yeah, let's put it into a non-linear regression. So this is a graph that curves. It's doing the same thing. It's trying to predict based on TTT episodes how many Twitch follows you will have, but this time it's allowed to curve. A bit more complicated to work with, but it does show us that yeah, it's a bit steeper here, and it gets less steep on average as we go forward. What I refer to as diminishing marginal returns to scale. Fancy way of saying the more input you put in, the less extra reward you get each time. So the way you can think about it is cake. You get yourself a nice cake, and you take your first bite. It's amazing. Whoever did it knew what they were doing. It's amazing. Please give me all the cake. Then you take your second bite. It's still good. It's still good cake, but it doesn't hit the same. And in fact, actually, as you keep going, the reward of each extra bite gets smaller and smaller, and in some cases can get worse if you eat too much cake. You feel bloated and uncomfortable, and you maybe a little bit like you want to throw up. Stop eating the cake, and if you keep going, diabetes. Good job. So yeah, that's essentially the principle here. The more episodes you're in, the less you are rewarded. Which kind of makes sense. After all, it's the same audience every time, pretty much. So if we go back to our original question, should a member of the Yogscast join in on those episodes of TTT? I don't know, is the honest answer. If they think that Twitch followers is the metric of success, and they have less than 250, then probably. If they have more, then there's something else going on there. Maybe it's not actually worth it for them, although obviously that's only with that one metric of success. If there's another metric, or actually you want to actively avoid growth on Twitch because say you have a particularly wholesome and welcoming community on there, then actually don't. So basically what I'm saying is, you know better than me. Why are you looking at me? Stop commissioning data sciences. Also somehow give me a job in data science. Thank you. And just for interest, I've made a graph of everyone. So I've got SIPs back in, and the show-offs, and the workhorses, and everyone else on the same non-linear graph, which again it really shows a very strong diminishing marginal returns to scale, shooting up, dropping down, and a bit of a bump. And we can see that our outliers at the top here are really causing us problems. SIP's really dragging that one up. Hat Film's causing a bit of a bump that has to go back down. So yeah, I hope you found that interesting. It's a bit of a ramble about something that no one needs to worry about, least of all me. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see ya.